Hi, this is sbodily with IBM. I'm part of the Advanced Technical Sales Support team located out of Dallas, Texas. And I'm about to show a demonstration of performing a rolling migration from PowerHA System Mirror version 6.1 to version 7.1.3. Now, the steps to perform this migration is exactly the same as what it was upgrading to any other release of version 7.1. We're going to stop the cluster services on one node. In my case, I've got a hot standby configuration. I'm going to choose to perform this on the backup node first. That's actually a pretty common practice among customers to do the standby node first. Then upgrade AIX if as needed. One thing with the latest version 7 of PowerHA is that each new release also requires the latest AIX level, so it's extremely common now to be forced to update or upgrade AIX as well. Now, if you previously had a non-cluster aware version of AIX installed, anything prior to 6.1.6, or even if you did have a CAA capable, it's quite possible you don't have the cluster-aware AIX file sets installed needed for version 7.1. So when you perform this update, you may have to come back and manually choose to install the cluster file sets. Hi, my name is sbodily with IBM. I'm part of the Advanced Technical Sales Support team based out of Dallas, Texas. And I'm about to demonstrate how to perform a rolling migration from PowerHA System Mirror version 6.1 to 7.1.3. Now, the steps to perform this upgrade are exactly the same as it was to upgrade to 7.1.0 or 7.1.1 or 7.1.2. However, there is one new additional feature that I'm going to highlight in this process. So first, let me give an overview of what the steps are to perform a rolling migration. Now, rolling migration actually gives you the least amount of downtime. You can always have a node active in the cluster. So I've got a 2-node hot standby cluster, which I'm going to show the configuration on in just a minute. The first thing I'm going to do is stop the cluster on the standby node first. That's actually a common practice for customers to upgrade the backup node first. It's also a best practice to do this in your test environment multiple times before you ever perform this in production. After I stop it, I'm going to upgrade AIX. The version 7.1 of PowerHA, they actually require very high levels of AIX. So more than ever, it's highly likely that when you perform this upgrade, it's going to be required that you upgrade your AIX levels to go along with it. It's also very likely that you're not going to have the cluster-aware AIX file sets installed prior to the upgrade. So it doesn't matter if it's before or after, but if you're going to upgrade, you might as well just do an install of it afterwards. Be sure you specifically choose to install the boss.cluster and boss.aha fs file sets. Now, something else I've noticed during the AIX upgrades recently is that I'm generally having to install boss RTE install first, all by itself of the latest level, then turn around and perform the update all for the next TL and or SP level to go along with it. I'm not really going to show that in this demo, but just a little tip that seems to be common in the last few updates. So after we perform the update and reboot, I'm going to update the entries in etc cluster rhost. This rhost file is cluster-aware AIX specific. So the first time you do it, there shouldn't be anything in the rhost file. I'm going to manually enter either the host name or the IP address, either one, but the caveat there is to make sure there's only one per line. Then after I updated on that node that I've already updated, I'm going to refresh CLCOMD, and then I'm going to execute CL MIG check. CL MIG check is a migration check tool to make sure that your 6.1 cluster configuration is supported in 7.1. I'll actually talk about that in a little bit more detail as I perform it. So option 1 will actually just check the ODM. Option 3 says enter the multicast address if you want to use multicasting. However, in 7.1.3, the unicast option is now available, so multicasting is no longer required. If you've seen 7.1.1 or 7.1.2, multicast was the only option, so you had no choice. But now unicast is available. So that is really the one single thing that's really different from the previous demonstration of upgrading to version 7.1 is the CL MIG check menu. There's two menus that are a little bit different now, but the rest of these steps are really the same. After that, we're going to upgrade PowerHA. 7.1.3 GA is the only level that's available, so I have no fixed packs to put on top of it. So I'm not going to have to perform 2 updates. And then if you like, you can check the CL convert log. I usually don't unless I have a problem, but I will show the CL MIG check file. When you execute CL MIG check, it does create a text file in the /var/CL MIG check directory. So I'll show you the contents of that. Then after updating PowerHA, I'll restart the cluster. This will actually give me a mixed mode cluster. I'll have one that is upgraded to 7.1.3 and one that is still at 6.1, and then I will repeat these steps for the next node. It's just second time around. I'll need to move the resource group over, and when I run CL MIG check the second time, I won't get a menu. It will actually detect the text file that's already created and then go ahead and start creating the CAA cluster, but I will show that as well. So very quickly, just a overview of my cluster configuration. I'm starting with 6.1 Service Pack 12 of PowerHA, along with AIX level 6.1.8 SP2. I have a very simple, what we call a 2-node hot standby cluster with a service address, a single volume group with just a couple of file systems in it. I have just kind of a dummy application server. All it's really doing is throwing a banner command out to start and stop. And you can see here I have a disk heartbeat network configured. That's very common in 6.1. Disk heartbeat network itself in that form is no longer supported in version 7.1. The cluster repository disk actually serves a similar function. So what we're going to see after the upgrade is that the disk heartbeat network will automatically be removed for us. Actually, CL MIG check will tell us that it's a warning. It's not supported, but oh, by the way, we will clean it up for you. So after we get done with the upgrade, I'm going to be at base level of PowerHA 7.1.3, AIX 6.1.9 SP1, and pretty much all my cluster information at this level is going to look exactly the same, the difference being that the disk heartbeat network will no longer be there. Now, if you have an existing disk heartbeat like I do on HDisk5, my HDisk5 actually is just a free disk. It's not part of a data volume group. And as long as it's 1 gig in size, at least 1 gig, usually 1 to 2 gig is adequate for a 2-node cluster. And you could probably repurpose your disk heartbeat device for the cluster repository disk. And in my demonstration, that's exactly what I'm going to do, is reuse it. So when I have to choose a repository disk, I'm going to tell it HDisk5. So just a couple of other references to share here. There are a couple of red books, 7.1.1 and 7.1.2. There is actually a best practices in 7.1.3 red book currently in the works, so there's not a draft available of it yet, but be looking for that in the near future. If you're watching this demo, you're probably already seeing me on YouTube, but you can also follow me on Twitter as well. So with that being said, I'm going to jump over to my terminal sessions to show you my cluster nodes and start performing the upgrade. Okay, here we go. I've got my CHE utility running, so we can see that my cluster is stable on both nodes. Jordan is the primary node and currently hosts the resource group, the volume group, and the service address. So Jordan is the production node. Jordan is in green, and Jessica is over here in pink. So the first thing I'm going to do on node Jessica is to stop the cluster services. Now, since it's not hosting any resources, this will actually execute very quickly. So even though we got the OK, you can also check over here in the status, and once I see that ST init, that tells me that it's down completely, and since the other node is registering that the cluster is stable, that means it's fine for me to go ahead and continue. So what I'm going to do at this point is go ahead and upgrade AIX to 619 SP1. Now, in my case, I'd mentioned this before, that I needed to install Boss RTE install first. So you'll probably encounter the same thing. If you do a preview, you'll see that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and perform this update. It's going to run for a little while, and then I'm going to reboot this node. And once I reboot it and log back in again, I will continue the demonstration. Okay, now that the upgrade is complete, I will show the OS level on node Jessica is now showing 619 SP1. So the next thing I need to do is, I can do this in a couple, the next order isn't as crucial which one you do, but out of habit I like to update etc cluster rhosts before I run CL MIG check, but either one of those two on the first node, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. But it's a good thing to do it first, because on the last node in the cluster you absolutely must do it first. So I'm going to update this and just put in the host names. Again, you can put in either host name or IP address, but just one per line. So I'm going to refresh CLCOMD for it to acknowledge the entries. And now what I'm ready to do is to actually run CL MIG check. Okay, this is the main menu for CL MIG check, and the first thing I'm going to do is tell it to check the ODM configuration. Now, if you have the luxury, of course you should have already done this in test before you ever do it in prod, but if you can run CL MIG check ahead of time, it'd be good to know this information if everything's supported prior to you being stuck in the middle of an upgrade to find out that something is not supported. Another tidbit to be aware of for version 7.1 specifically that was never a requirement before, but cluster-aware AIX requires it now, is that the PowerHA communication path for the node must be set to the host name. If it is not set to the host name, then this actual configuration check will give you an error about it not being set. So that's another common thing to run into. So we can see here that I'm getting a warning about the disk heartbeat device. That's actually normal and expected, and it does tell me that it will be removed from the configuration during the upgrade. And then it tells me there are no unsupported elements. So this tells me that I can go ahead and continue on with CL MIG check. So now the next thing I'm going to do is perform option 3. This will come back. Now this is the menu that is new in version 7.1.3 specifically, because unicast was added in 7.1.3, So in the 7.1.1, 7.1.2, you won't get this menu at all. Actually, what it asks you for first is the repository disk, which will come up on the next screen. So in my case, I'm actually going to choose unicast. So I do 3 and enter, and what it does is a quick discovery of shared free disks that I could possibly use for a repository disk. Now, it doesn't actually check the size of it. It just knows that it's not part of a volume group and the PVIDs match on each side. So previously I was using HDisk5 as my disk heartbeat device, so I'm going to reuse it for my cluster repository disk. So that's all I have to do in CAA VG CHE. So now we'll exit out of this, and what it does is it actually creates a file in var CAA VG CHE called CAA-VGCheck.txt. And what it contains actually becomes part of the HA-ODM class called HACMP SIRCALL, S-I-R-C-O-L is what SIRCALL is. And it'll contain roughly the same kind of information in that stanza. So standard just means that it's standard edition. The repository disk is the one that I chose, and what am I using for the communications? Instead of multicast, it is unicast. So this option is also new in that file in 7.1.3 specifically. So now I'm ready to actually perform the upgrade to PowerHA 7.1.3. So much like AIX, all I'm going to do is a SMIDI update all, and always accept new license. Even for the AIX ones, be sure to accept new license. So I'm going to kick this off and let this run a few minutes, and then I will come back and pick up when this finishes. Okay, so that upgrade is complete. That only took about 4 minutes. I've got a rather old and slow Power 5 520. So at this point, I'm actually ready to rejoin this node into the cluster. And this will give me a mixed cluster. Now, what you don't do in a mixed cluster state is don't make any cluster changes, don't perform a sync or verify, pretty much just leave it alone. So it's completely supported to run a mixed environment. Some customers actually like to upgrade one weekend and then come back and upgrade the other one the next weekend. A failover can and should still work in a mixed environment. So this is joining, and since it has no resources for it to actually pick up, it joins very quickly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap sides. I'm actually going to stop Jordan and have it move its resources over to Jessica to continue the upgrade on the other node. So I'm going to stop it here and tell it to move the resource group. And since I don't have a real application, this too actually runs very quickly in my environment. So you can see the resources are already down on Jordan. The volume group and the service address are gone. Now you can see the resource group is coming online. The volume group is online. And the service address is online, and we're stable. So we're good. Something else that's just kind of an interesting thing to show, especially in the middle of an upgrade, is how the level's not really updated. You can see here in the status it says 7.1.3. But if I check Cluster Manager ES, you can see the version here says 7.1.3, but the CL version is 11. 11 actually corresponds with HA version 6.1. So 7.1.3 is actually CL version 15. So once this upgrade is complete, we're going to see that change as well. But just kind of an interesting little nugget to point out. So now over on Jordan, I'm ready to perform the update of AIX on Jordan as well, but something else I just wanted to show is I mentioned CAA MIG creates that MIG file. It actually creates it on both nodes. So, or actually every node in the cluster. So it'll create it and push it around. So if I check on Jordan, even though CAA MIG has never been run over here, if I check it, it's there. So I'll explain more about that when I run CAA MIG next time. So I'm going to start the update all for AIX on here, and when that's finished I'll reboot and continue on. Okay, so I've rebooted Jordan and it's on 619 SP1. Now I need to update the etc cluster rhost, and again I'm just going to put the host name and refresh CLCOMD. And since CAA MIG text file already exists, the next time it's run, what it does is it looks to see if the file exists. If it does, it bypasses the menu. Then it tries to figure out if it's the last node in the cluster or not. If it is the last node in the cluster, then it says, okay, I need to go ahead and create the CAA cluster. So now it's going to create the CAA cluster on the repository disk. So while that's running, if I come over here to node Jordan, you can still see my cluster stable, but I'm going to break out of this for a second. And if you look on HDisk 5, that was my disk heartbeat network. So when it creates the CAA cluster, you're going to see a new volume group appear over here called CAA VG Private. So I'm going to keep looking for that. And there it is on one side. So that doesn't mean that it's done yet, but that's just part of it. And I don't want to break out of it on Jordan, but when it gets done on Jordan, we're going to see that CAA VG Private exists on both nodes. And also we can I can show you the status of that the CAA cluster with the ls cluster command. So now that the CAA cluster has created successfully, it says now I can go ahead and upgrade HA. But before I do, you can see there's my CAA VG Private. You can do an ls cluster. There's many flags off of it, -I or -M. So this shows me the CAA cluster that was created. And now all I need to do is upgrade HA on this side. So I'm going to just do the exact same thing before, tell it to accept new license, and let it rip. So this will take probably 3 or 4 minutes for it to run. Once this finishes, I'll start the recording again and pick it back up. Okay, so the upgrade on node Jordan is complete, and all I need to do now is rejoin it into the cluster, and once the last node entering the cluster has been upgraded, it will actually finish the migration process. So we'll see I'll show this afterwards. We'll see that the version number will get updated from 11 to 15, and we'll also want to see that after the cluster stabilizes, I'll show that it will automatically remove the disk heartbeat network. Now if we check it quickly enough, we'll actually still get to see it. Like if I check the topology output right now, disk heartbeat is still there. But in the next minute or two, that will actually be cleaned up. So Jordan has joined and the cluster is stable. And if I look at the version number for Cluster Manager ES, you'll see that it's showing 15 here. Now let's go back and look at the cluster topology. Disk heartbeat's still there, so it hasn't removed it yet. Another place to check the version number is the ODM for HACMP node. So you can see here everything is 15. And actually, if I would have checked it beforehand, you would have seen that it was 11. Okay, so disk heartbeat is still there for the time being, but this will just take a minute. So I can also do the same thing on checking the versions for the other node. So remember before on Jessica, it still showed CL version 11 while we were in the mixed state. So that has been updated. If I check the ODM, grab per version, it's all 15. So now if I come back over to node Jordan, you can see that now my disk heartbeat is gone. So it does take a couple of minutes, but it's there's actually a process called CLMIG cleanup that runs at the end that will take care of that for us. So at this point, the complete migration should be complete. Now, since Jordan was the primary node before, we may want to choose to move the resource group back. So in my case, I've only got the one resource group. I've also only got one other node I could possibly move it to. So I'll just kick off an RG move. And again, since I don't have a real application, this runs very quickly. You can see that it runs stop server, which mine is just a banner command. So it unmounts, varies off, removes the service address. So it is unmounted and varied off. The service is gone. Now you can see the service has come up on Jordan. The volume group is online, so it should be mounting the file systems. And then it will run the start server, which in my case is just, again, a banner command for it to start. So now that this is stabilized, my RG move is complete. And when I come back over to node Jordan, it'll take just a second. It says, yep, now it's done. And if I look at the status on both sides, they'll both say the same thing. So in a nutshell, the steps in the process is very easy to do. By far, the huge majority of time spent on it is simply just upgrading AIX. Upgrading HA itself and running these other steps is probably, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. A lot of the newer systems, it's a lot faster than that. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and wrap up this demonstration. If you have any questions about this or any other demo or just something about PowerHA in general, my email was at the beginning of this demonstration. It's just sbodily@us.ibm.com. Thanks for watching.